Meanwhile, others join. Can I request some of you or all of you would be better to come on camera for whoever is possible.
I request everyone to turn on their cameras, please.
This is my first interaction with you, I mean, with your group. Uh, yeah, so most of you are from which year and what kind of streams you are from?
Most of us here are third years, ma'am, and we are from different streams. A few are from CSE, IT, ECE, mechanical.
Okay, third year. Okay, so this is your fifth semester.
Yes, ma'am, fifth semester.
Okay, so all of you are from St. Joseph's College of Engineering, is it?
St.
Yeah,
Joseph's College of Engineering and St. Joseph's Institute of Technology. Together, it's group of institutions.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
I also graduated from St. Joseph's College of Engineering. Uh, yeah, so it just happened. I was not aware earlier. Uh, yeah, so it's great to pay the college back in some fashion. Saturday is off, is it?
yes, ma'am, mostly.
Okay. Hi, Jeevita.
Hi, ma'am.
I think most of them have joined.
Okay.
If not, just
Diana,
calling them.
yes, you can start the welcome note so that we can continue.
Yeah, sure. I request Soundarya to start with the welcome note.
Whether am I audible to everyone?
Yes, yes.
Yes, Soundarya, you are.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Soundarya, event host and technical coordinator at AWS Cloud Club St. Joseph Groups of Institution. And it's my pleasure to welcome you all to the Cloud and DevOps Masterclass, Episode 1, that is Cloud Security. Today marks the beginning of an exciting series where we delve into the critical areas of cloud and DevOps. This session, focused on cloud security, is particularly significant as securing cloud environments is a top priority in today's digital landscape. We are honored to have Ms. Raji Krishnamoorty with us, a respected consultant at Tata Consultancy Services, AWS Community Builder, AWS Ambassador, and Enterprise Solution Architect. Her wealth of knowledge and practical experience in the field will guide us through this session, providing valuable insights that are essential for anyone looking to excel in cloud computing. I want to take this moment to thank each of you for joining us today. Your enthusiasm to learn and grow is what makes this initiative possible and impactful. I'm confident that today's session will be both enlightening and empowering. Now, without further delay, let's dive into the world of cloud security. I hand over to Ms. Raji Krishnamurthy to lead us through the session. And before there's a note, if there's hands-on practice in console, I request everyone to use your console as well. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Soundarya, for the introduction. Again, I would request you to all come, put on your camera and come on the video, uh, essentially to make this session as interactive as possible. I don't want a monologue from me; it gets boring beyond some time. Okay, so it's great to be part of this program, and today I'll be sharing my knowledge, whatever I have learned so far through my experience in IT on cloud security, and especially on AWS security. Just to give you a quick background of my journey, I have close to 21 years of, going to complete 21 years of experience in IT. And I started working from the year I graduated from St. Joseph's. Um, from literally from June, from the month after April was our exams, and from June I started working. So I started as a programmer, and I was from electrical and electronics stream. But somehow from second year onwards, I made up my mind that I would get into IT. So I started attending few courses during my college, and then from 2003, I have been working. So started my career as a ASP programmer, and then I moved into .NET from Microsoft, which is like Microsoft .NET, and then Microsoft SharePoint, and then cloud came in, which is when I started working in Office 365 and Azure. And then when I started working with AWS, I found very interesting, and it was closer to what I like. And fortunately, my organization has also given me a platform where I can practice my passion. And since then, for the past 6 to 7 years, I have been working in AWS. The roles I typically play are architect, consultant, and sometimes program management, customer management. But most of my work revolves around creating products for my organization, which would be a differentiator in the market. So there is a lot of architecture, designing, decision making, creativity that goes into my day to day work. And things are changing at a very fast pace, and it's very amazing to see so much of energy when I interact with freshers who graduate from college, and the amount of knowledge that they have. It's very encouraging for us as well to do more in this field. So today we are going to talk on security, as you all know, and I just wanted to. Jeevita told me that all of you are aware of, you are familiar with AWS. You are aware of the services. So before we actually get into the session, I want few what I want to share some, or also get your thoughts. All right. So if any one of you can come forward and just share a few things, like to get started, what is your favorite AWS service which you enjoy the most, and also name something which you don't like, or which you feel it's difficult, or it's not your cup of tea. Yeah, I just want to hear the positive and the negative as well. Anyone? Is Krishna talking? Krishna, you are on mute.
Okay, sorry.
No worries.
Yeah, so my favorite would be EC2,
Okay.
and the one I hate would be Amazon Kendra, because
Okay.
it costed me a lot, like $129. But
Okay. So it's the cost because of which you don't like.
yeah,
Okay.
and due to my, you know,
So what do you like most in EC2?
the hosting, like using the OS,
Okay. It's
coding
more
and
user friendly, more easy to work with.
using the virtual machines.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else want to share?
Yeah, so I just wanted to add up. I've been using Bedrock, and I love this foundational models of Bedrock, like it be Mistral AI or AWS or any other FMs in it. That makes my work even more easier for scaling up the generative AI applications. And when it comes to Amazon Q, like it has a lot of latency in it, and I we are saying in the developer community to enhance it further with certain other things as well. But yes, it's doing a very great job when it is combined with QuickSight and many other applications, many other services and applications. But yes, so Q has to get developed even more.
Okay. Okay. Great. Great. Yeah. So anyone can tell me, what do you think security is? cloud security is, or even information security? What do you think it is, and why do you feel it's important?
Good evening, ma'am.
Hi, Vishal. Tell me.
Hello, ma'am. Actually, security is meant to us in AWS as to protect our resources using username, password, authentication, and many services are helping us for the security purpose. And the best security thing we can suggest is actually web application firewall, actually,
Hmm.
and which is one of my favorite in AWS.
Okay.
For protecting from web application attacks and sophisticated attacks, we can able to prefer it.
Okay. Okay. So you have already used web application firewall.
Yeah, ma'am. In my
Okay.
30-day challenge, I have been used it in while practicing the POC.
Okay. 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 So that's good. So we'll proceed unless someone wants to share. Okay. So I'll just bring up. I tried to put down few slides for to help our conversation going today. Just give me a moment. Let me know if you're able to see.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah, so cloud security. So before cloud security, let's also talk about there is something called, sorry, I think it is slow. Even though I move backward, it's moving forward. Okay. Uh, okay, so information, there's something called information security, right? I don't know why it's playing on its own. Okay. Fine. Yeah. So information security is the traditional security, right? So anything which is a source of information for an organization. So it could be as simple as a file, their computers, their servers, their laptop. So all of these is carry some information, and then when the digital world started picking up, so when things started getting digitized, so you have files of racks of files in an office. People started after the era of digitization came in, people started creating an electronic version of those hard files. So basically, how do you digitize the whole information rack that you have in your organization? So that's when the concept of cybersecurity started coming up, and it has evolved greatly over the last 10 years. Um, and the reason why it is of utmost importance, and it's a topic which every CXO has in their board meeting. And the reason is, though we are discovering, inventing new tools and technologies to protect information, on the other side, there are also people who misuse um, these information measures that we take. So and the way they misuse is also evolving. So it's not just the defenders who are evolving, but the attackers are also evolving, and especially after COVID, right? There has been a number of cyber breaches which is happening, and every day you can, if you check any of the cyber security websites, every day you will see some theft or the other. Either there is a malicious virus, or there is a data breach. And these days it's like become very normal to see a news on data breach, to see something like billions of millions of records, credit card data has been hacked. Every day you will see something or the other coming up. So this is a point of concern for the CXOs, for every business, no matter how small or big they are. It is something for which it's something which they are spending a lot of money, and therefore the entire world of cybersecurity itself is a growing field. And it's a field where you can learn a lot. A lot of new technologies are coming in. Of course, AI plays a great role. AI plays a role in putting down security measures, and unfortunately, the hackers also use AI to get into systems. So it's a very exciting field, and it's one of the top most skill which every organization looks for, not just the IT organizations but also the industries, bank, healthcare, manufacturing, education. So every industry has a concern of cybersecurity. They are always worried how do they protect their information, their assets, and it's a skill which is highly paid, and everybody looks for it. So if you have a passion towards cybersecurity, I would encourage you to further sharpen your skills, go beyond the boundary of AWS security. And if you need any guidance on that, I can help you out. And yeah, it's quite an interesting field. So when it comes to cloud, right, security is dealt a bit different, because here, unlike the traditional security, here you don't have boundaries, right? So there is no physical firewall or a physical boundary. Everything is virtual. So you have to think about security in every resource, in every aspect of your AWS or cloud boundary. So the size of your cloud footprint, or say you create an account, you just create one web application. The importance that you give for security is same as hundreds of account and hundreds of application. So the size doesn't matter, no matter how small or big you are. Security is has to be dealt with utmost importance. And this is something which you cannot think about after you roll out an application. So most of you must be doing POCs. You have not yet started working in real time, or you have not productionized any application. So when you start working on a real world scenario, you cannot afford to think about security after the application is built, or after it is rolled out to a certain set of users. That's something will not work out. So security is always, you have to think from day one. So it is a proactive it's a proactive concept. So it's not something like you built an application and then you give it to the security person to check whether it is secure. That was working out before cloud came in, but not right now. So the from the time you start thinking or designing an application, you should also include the security elements. You should, in fact, we do something called threat modeling, which means, say you want to create a web application, right? So you know what kind of users would be using that web application. So you have to think upfront what could be the potential attacks or what could be the potential threat. So this is a web application which is going to be used by, say, internet users, and those users are going to be from India, Singapore, and Australia, or even throughout the globe. Then what kind of cyber threat can this application be prone to? So that's something called threat modeling. So you have to think about what could be the attacks, and accordingly you have to design your application. Accordingly you have to use the tools and the services. So it is not something which you can react to situations. You have to be proactive. And here, especially in the world of cloud, things like security, compliance, it is a shared responsibility. Now, I'm sure you would also have come across this scenario where, because cloud is something which there is no parameter, AWS is maintaining the infrastructure. So how much of security is their responsibility and how much is yours? So there is always a confusion. What is AWS responsible for and what is it that you are responsible for? So that I'll talk about it in detail. It's called shared responsibility. But what I'm trying to say is, you are responsible for the security. Like, so say you create a web application in AWS, the security of that web application is your responsibility. If you are creating that web application on an EC2 instance, and the hardware of the EC2 instance, that is something Amazon is responsible for. And if at all it has not happened before, at least I don't recollect, but if at all there is a virus or there is a malicious code which somebody manages to inject into the infrastructure, into the into the hypervisor or into the OS, or not OS, but into the hypervisor or the hardware of the EC2, only then Amazon is responsible. But if there is a hacker who has managed to gain an entry into your application, it is your responsibility. So you are in control of it, you are responsible, and how you design security is completely left to you. It's your choice and it's your decision. So that's why it's a customizable defense. That's why we call it that way. And the way you use the tools, the way you integrate, it's all your capability and your design making, right? So that's that. These are few things. I mean, you can keep going, but these are the few important aspects of cloud security which you must be aware of. So I thought of just flashing it. So we spoke about responsibility. So who is responsible for what? This is something which you might have come across, but nevertheless, I thought I should talk about it. Right. So now you all understand about cloud computing. So what is AWS role, and what is the customer is, assume you are the customer. Okay, so the customer is you. So there are certain things which you can do, and there are certain things which AWS gives. Right. So the entire hardware is AWS responsibility. So security of the cloud infrastructure is AWS responsibility. But what you do with it or what you do inside it is your responsibility. So security in the cloud is customer's responsibility. So the hardware, the storage, the hardware for the database, the entire networking layer, the compute, and also the softwares which come on top is AWS responsibility. And the kind of, say, the DBs that you create, or you create an instance of a certain EC2 AMI, right? So that becomes an EC2 instance. The firewall configuration, the way you design the network, the security group, everything is customers. It's your responsibility. So the application, the data that you own, everything is your responsibility. So Amazon will give you the tools, but it's your responsibility. The onus is on you to use the tools. So how do you use the various tools, when, what situation? That is what AWS security is all about. And among the various roles that you have in AWS, be it an operational engineer, administrator, developer, AI engineer, AWS security is a very important role, which every project must have, and it is in demand, right? So if you want to specialize in AWS security, of course, there is a defined path, and that deserves a totally different discussion. But to give you a very high level view, you can start either from sysops or as a developer, and then once you come, you need to do solution architect associate, and once you do that, then you can take up the security specialty. But what I would also recommend is, AWS also does the same. As an architect, as a solution architect, you should work at least for 2 to 3 years, and then take up the security specialty, which will give you that experience and appreciate the certification program. So once you clear the security specialty, you are fit to play the role of a security developer or engineer to start with. Right? So from then onwards, you can. It's all about the kind of projects that you work on, and how you gain your experience. Any questions so far?
No, ma'am, I think we're good.
Okay. I'll just put off my camera so that I'll start presenting the screen. Okay. So let me go to the console. You are able to see my screen, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll bring up the console, and before I do that, there are many AWS services which help in security. Anything that any of you have used it, or any names that you can give? Or I have put up something on this slide. I deliberately didn't put the name of the icon. Can any one of you guess what's the first one? Just you can name any service which you think is a security service.
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah.
I can tell with like AWS Shield or for web application firewall and IAM for user security.
Okay. Great. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it, ma'am.
Okay. So there are many services, right, for AWS, and that helps us to fulfill our responsibilities. As we saw in the earlier slide, securing what we build on top of cloud is something which we are responsible for, and AWS gives a lot of services for us. Right, so I'm going to log in into my console, And let me just give me few seconds until I do that. Can you see my console?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. So I'll quickly show you some of the important AWS services. Right. So if you have used any of them, and in between, if you want to come up and share your experience, please go forward. So the first and foremost widely used service is IAM, right? So I'm going to the IAM console. So what does IAM do? Is I would say IAM is the foundation service for security. Okay. Every resource that you create in AWS, you will there will be IAM behind it, even without, you may not realize it. So for example, if you create a Lambda function, that will be using, that would have behind the scene created an IAM role. Right? So only then the Lambda can function the way you want to. And of course, you can customize that role, and you can decide what the Lambda can do and cannot do. Similarly, when you create an EC2 instance, then the EC2 will be attached to a role. It is again an IAM role. So that role decides what kind of permissions the EC2 can have. Right. So this is the IAM console. At the end, we'll try to do some lab exercise. But yeah, so I'll just show you what are the capabilities. So the first and foremost, as you all might be aware, when you first create an AWS account, you get something called a root user. So root user is the most privileged user. And as a first step, it is recommended that you have a multi-factor authentication created for the root user. So that is something which you will do here, right? And then you can create users here, and you can add, again, you can, if you want, I mean, it is recommended, of course, you to have a multi-factor authentication for the users as well. Now, to organize how things work here, so there is a concept called user groups. So user group is nothing but you can group a set of users into a logical group. So say you have an application, you want certain users to be admins, certain users to be able to use certain modules, right? So you can create groups, or within the AWS infrastructure, if you want certain users to be administrators or operations, and you want to restrict what they can do, accordingly you can create groups logically, and you can assign the right users in the right group. And a role is an important concept here. So role is where you control what kind of specific permission they can have. And to define what a role can do, you need to create a policy. So that's what you see here. There are a number of policies that you will see, because AWS would have created it. And sometimes we also create policies. So when we create applications, we would need certain custom policies to be created. So that's where you see this type. So there are two types. One is AWS managed, and the other is customer managed, right? So and there is a specific way in which you can create a policy. So everything is JSON, right? And then as we do more advanced topics, we'd also see what identity providers are. So to in a nutshell, what this means is, some most of the times when organizations get into production, they would use third party tools. So I'm not sure if you would have heard about identity protection tools like SailPoint, Okta. So these are products, these are security products with which you can create usernames, credentials, you can manage their permissions. So that's a separate tool outside of cloud. And if an organization is using that, then you can integrate those tools as well into IAM. So that's the kind of feature AWS gives. And this is a fairly new, I wouldn't say new, 2-3 years old feature called Analyzer, IAM Analyzer. So what this does is, it helps you to check if there is anyone accessing your resources from outside your account. That's one thing. The other is, it will also show you. So sometimes what we do is, we create buckets, and we may not have restricted the bucket, or we might have allowed access to the bucket to another AWS account. So what you can do is, you can create, you can enable the analyzer. So for example, when you create an analyzer, you can choose like what you want the analyzer to log, whether you want external use access analysis, which means it will scan who accessed your resources, or you can configure it for unused access analysis, right? And then when you create an analyzer, it will start creating findings. So whenever there are any resource, be it a bucket or a Lambda function, or even any kind of resource that you have, if it is open to public, or if it is accessible by a foreign or external account, you will be able to find it over here. So this is one of the best practice that we recommend. And then there is something called credential report. So this is a Excel which IAM creates. So right now I just have one user and few roles, but when you start expanding, maturing your account, there will be a lot of roles created, users created. So this is an Excel report which you can get, and it will tell you, who had logged in. Like if there is a, usually root users should not. I mean, we don't recommend root users to log in into the account. So if the root users has logged in, it will report the last login activity. So similarly, it will have details on when each of the user last logged in, when did they last reset their password. So such kind of details you will get in an Excel file. So you can try this as well, and this helps you to actually have a visibility into what is happening within your AWS account. And then there is something called service control policies. So this we are not going to talk about today, but maybe in the future. So there is a service called AWS organization. Anyone has worked in AWS organizations from this group?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Can you tell me what you did, why you created?
So I linked two other accounts.
Okay.
When I found out that the account from which I logged in, that was my management account. And with the help of that, I implemented service control policies.
Okay. So,
Yeah,
what is service control policy?
like you specify some rules
Mhm.
that either allows or denies some actions. For example, what I did was implemented a rule in such a way that except E2 dot micro, that EC2 instance, others should be denied in
Okay.
that particular account. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Great. Nice. Yeah. So thanks for that. So when you have multiple accounts, right? So it is not practically feasible to run an organization. I mean, when I say organization, a business, to run a business with one single AWS account. For learning AWS, it's fine, but even a smallest organization should have, or it's recommended to have a multiple AWS accounts. Reason being, we should logically separate accounts. So there will be one account for all your applications. There will be one AWS account for all your tools. Then there will be an account dedicated just to collect all the logs, and one account where the security logging auditing will happen. So when you have multiple accounts, a large organization or even a medium sized organization, they will have a firewall, right? So every network traffic has to go via this firewall, and this firewall will usually be kept in a single AWS account, and the networking will be configured in such a way that every traffic, be it an account to account or from an external user to an account, it should pass via this firewall. So usually what we recommend is to have a dedicated AWS account where you should have this firewall. And yeah, so we'll talk about this in detail, but I want to stress the fact that we will end up having multiple AWS accounts, and to better manage them, there is a service called AWS organizations. So this is where you will be creating accounts. So this is the first activity that we typically do when we start putting down the AWS environment. Anyone heard about landing zone here? What is a landing zone? Anyone has heard about the term? Okay, fine. So as we move on, we'll talk in detail. But what is landing zone is when you start putting, as an architect, your first work would be to create a blueprint, of the AWS environment, in which landing zone will be the first activity that you would do. So that's a multi account. So you will be deciding how many accounts you are going to have, in the sense what are the various accounts that you will have. So it's a multi account AWS environment, which will ensure that there is security, there is logging, and everything, following all the best practices. So a landing zone is something with which you have create a multi-account structure. So it helps you to manage multiple accounts, and it brings in a better governance. So when you, in future, when you want a new account, you can't just like that get into the console and create. There is a specific way in which it has to be created. So in this landing zone, the account provisioning will happen. So there is a feature called control tower in AWS, using which you can bring in these automation. So in a nutshell, landing zone helps you to have a centralized management, and it helps you to bring in additional AWS services and makes it more scalable and flexible. So that's an advanced topic. You just be aware of this terminology, landing zone, right? Okay. So we'll move on. We were in IAM, so let's stick to IAM. Okay, so service control policies, as he rightly said, there are certain permissions which has to be done at the account level. So IAM is fine as long as the scope is user or a role, but sometimes we might also need to control at the account level, which is when you will start writing policies for an account or a group of accounts, right? So that is the service control policies. Okay, so we'll move on to the, maybe we'll pick up the next security service. Maybe we'll pick up config. Okay, so config is, this is again an important AWS service. Okay, so here what happens is I have not set up because I want to set it up when we start doing the labs. So most of the services are not set up here. I just wanted to talk about them now, and when we do the lab, I'll set it up, right? So config is again an important service from the governance perspective. So, as you all will agree, when you start working in cloud, things will sometimes they go unnoticed. You may not have full knowledge of what is happening, especially the configurations, the parameters. If anyone changed the permission of a role which is attached to EC2, or is somebody changing the configuration of a database. So it's not practically possible for us to keep checking the console or the report 24 hours. So what config helps us to do is it will log all the configuration changes. So for example, today I create a EC2 instance and I'm attaching a role ABC. Then tomorrow the instance has gone out of space. So there is another person who is increasing the volume of that EC2 instance. Then day after, someone feels that the EC2 is not having the right permission. So they go and change the IAM role attached to that EC2. Now, it is not possible for the security person or an administrator to keep a tab on it each and every day or every time something happens. So what config does is it keeps a record of all the changes which this EC2 has undergone, and it will store the changes alone. So it will say that day one, EC2 got created, day two, the EBS volume attached to the EC2 was updated. Day three, the role attached to the EC2 was changed. So it will have it will have a logs of all the configuration changes which happened, and this gets recorded, right? So this gets recorded every 24 hours, and we can create reports. We can decide what should happen. So, for example, I can decide that an email has to be sent whenever the IAM role is getting changed for an EC2 instance, and I can also specify which exact EC2 instance this email has to come. So either I can say emails has to be sent for all EC2s, or I can say an email has to be sent when a specific EC2 is getting changed. So such kind of features are there, and when we do the lab, we'll get more clarity, right? So that's one. Anyone has used config before? No? Okay, so that's great. That's something which you have not used yet. Yeah, so let me bring up my slide again. You can see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, you can see, right?
Yes, ma'am, we can see.
Okay, okay. So I'm not bringing up in slideshow. There is some lag, so I'm just keeping it this way. Okay, the third one, this is KMS. Anyone used KMS here? KMS stands for Key Management Services. What do you think it is? If you have not used, it's fine. But what do you think it is?
Type of encryption service.
Encryption. Yeah. Anyone can talk about what encryption is, why it is important. What is encryption? What do you think encryption is in the field of security? Leave AWS, leave cloud. Encryption in general, what do you think it is?
Basically, you don't want your confidential information to be in some plain text form. Right?
Okay.
So in order to secure it, what did we do? Transform it to some unique, text or something like that.
Okay. Okay. Great. Yeah.
And for that, you follow some algorithms in
Mhm.
order to change that to your subtext. Like,
Mhm.
get it.
Okay. Nice. Yeah. So that's encryption. So now, say I want to encrypt a file in S3 bucket. Very simple requirement. Now, I may not understand how encryption works. I will not have the skill set to write an encryption algorithm. So, all of this is abstracted by AWS. So, what they do is you can come here and straight away create a key. So, encryption, just simply call it as encryption key. So, with this key, you can encrypt your data, and you don't have to worry about where this key is stored. So there is a specific way in which you can configure things, but the generation of the key, the storing of the key, the managing of the key, everything is handled by AWS. And you can also configure and customize uh, what AWS should do and what you should do. So it is kind of like the shared responsibility you can see here as well. So that's about KMS. So what happens is, broadly, at least today, you just need to know this, that broadly there are two different types of encryption keys. So one is some keys are created by AWS and managed by AWS. So when I say managed, what it means, AWS will take care of rotating the keys. So creating an encryption key is okay, but you should also keep refreshing or rotating your keys. If you don't rotate your keys, then that also is a weak point. It will become a vulnerability. Okay, so when you create certain resources, AWS will behind the scene create keys for it. So I have few S3 buckets. I have two EC2 instances in Cloud9. I have a EFS as well. So I did not create these keys. I was not even aware that these keys are here and this is the key ID. So when I created these resources, these keys got created by AWS, and AWS will be managing it for me, in the sense that will take care of rotating the key or deleting the key, right? So I don't have to worry about it. Okay, so that's the AWS managed key. Then there is another set of type of key called customer managed key. So here what happens is, I can create a key, I can create a key in AWS, but I get to manage it. Like I can decide when it has to be rotated. Suddenly, if I feel okay, there is a cyber breach happening around me, I want to rotate all my keys, I can rotate it. And I can also decide who should have what kind of permission. So that's something where I manage the key. So though AWS created it for me, I get to manage this key. So that's called customer managed keys. Okay. Now, sometimes what happens is when in big organizations, they would want their encryption key to be used to protect the AWS resources. So, in which case, there is something called, it's called Cloud HSM, where you can bring in a foreign key. So, you can have a custom key, and you can also create custom keys here, and you can also bring it from outside. And there is a separate hardware which is called hardware security modules, which generate this key. So sometimes organizations have their own HSMs with which they want to create a key. They may not trust AWS, or they would be trusting their HSM more. So they would want to use their HSM, but they want to use it to encrypt the AWS resources and bring it over to AWS. So that's also possible. So we'll see in detail as we move on. Yeah. So the other one, a very interesting one, is CloudTrail. So CloudTrail, I'm sure many of you might have used this one, CloudTrail. Anyone has used CloudTrail? No? Okay, CloudTrail is something like, you say you have it's just literally the meaning trail. Okay, so there is an EC2 instance, and somebody is logging in, and there is some activity happening. So the user logs in, and they are doing some activity, and then they are logging out, and say they create a security group for the EC2. So with whatever happens, right? So any action that you do in AWS, especially, it is all APIs. So you agree? I mean, you understand the foundation of it. Amazon Web Services. It's true with any hyperscaler. What has happened essentially is everything is packaged as a API. So when I create an encryption key, one API gets triggered behind the scene. When I log in into an EC2, there is a API which you can see. So these activity of APIs is what gets logged in the CloudTrail. So you will be able to trace. So tracing is important, right? So from start till end, what happened or what journey a user had. So for example, if there is a user, so I'll show you with the console itself. So I'm a user, right? So my username is Gen AI Learner. Now, first, what did I do? I went into IAM, and then I say I downloaded a credential report. I enabled a access analyzer, and then I went into config. Say assume I did something in config. Then I launched an EC2 instance, and then I created a encryption key. So all of these, there will be APIs which will get invoked behind the scene. So that will get logged by CloudTrail. So it is essentially a logging feature where a user activity will be logged, right? Not the cloud resource, but the user activity. So what a user did from the time they logged in until the time they logged out, that is what you will be able to see in a cloud tray. Again, I have not created it. Okay, let me create. So now once your CloudTrail is created, it will store all the logs in S3 and there will be a unique bucket created. Okay, so now here what will happen is, as I start using the console, not just console, like I have an application which is created in AWS. Any APIs which get invoked in the infrastructure layer will get logged in this CloudTrail. So you can search for with a particular API. You can search and you can see what were the various timing in which that API was invoked. So say if I launched an EC2, so there will be a specific API which will get called. Anyone is aware how to find out that API? All you need to do is just go to AWS. Okay. So you refer the documentation, and in the documentation you will know what. See, you can see this actions, right? So these are the different APIs which are invoked in EC2. So, for example, when somebody is creating an image of the EC2, this create image API will get logged. So you can see that entry made in CloudTrail. Okay. You create a tag, transit gateway, connect, creating a volume, right, and then creating a VPC. All of this will get logged, and this API will have a certain JSON format with which you will know which user fired this API, whether it's a user or an IAM role, you will know that. And you will also know what is the timestamp and what parameters were passed to this API and so on. So as a security person, it will greatly help you to do investigations. So that's where it comes handy. Okay, so the next one is Security Hub. Okay, so this is config and this is CloudTrail, IAM organizations, KMS. So we have Security Hub. Now, anyone worked in Security Hub? So Security Hub, what it does is, again, I have not enabled it. It also incurs cost as well. I didn't feel the need. When we do the lab, I will. But Security Hub is something where you will find all the logs collected in one single place. It's a very important security service. So when you have so many logs coming up, it becomes very cumbersome to interpret, config logs, CloudTrail logs, CloudWatch, and there are few services which generates logs. So all of these logs will come and get deposited in Security Hub. So here also you can create reports. So the main reason why we use Security Hub is to see where things are getting deviated. So say when you productionize your AWS environment, there are certain rules you want the users to follow, and sometimes or most of the times when they don't follow the rules, when they don't follow the best practice, that gets logged, right? So either a config might log it or a CloudTrail might log it. So you will know in Security Hub, because all the logs will come and get deposited here, and you can create reports, you can take actions. So we'll do these experiments with Hub, but essentially it helps you to see when things go wrong. You can do security checks. So we call it a security posture. So security posture meaning how, in terms of security, how good or bad or medium this account is. So there will be a dashboard created. It will have a score. So if it has scores like 30 or 40, it means you are doing security in the right way only 30%. It's recommended that you maintain a score of 95 to 100, or at least 90, which means that the best practices are being followed. So it's something like a posture management tool. Yeah, so we'll move on to the next topic. Okay. So I had few labs created in IAM. So I wanted to cover IAM in detail. We can also create one user and role in IAM. But before that, let me bring up a lab exercise for you. So what I had done here is, I'm not sure how to share the files here. I didn't put in GitHub yet. But yeah, okay. So I have a very simple application. Is it something you can log in into your console right now? Is it possible?
Yes, ma'am, it's possible.
Okay. So can you create, maybe I just have 3-4 files here. Okay, so what we are going to do here is we are creating a very small application. We have a DynamoDB, right? And then we are going to populate it with some data. So maybe we'll start with the DynamoDB, and then I didn't get a chance to upload this. So I have not used Google Meet much, but I can put the code there, right? The source code, you can copy it. Each of the files are quite small. I have just few lines. Can one of you share your screen, and then all of you can follow that? One of you log in into your console, and we can do a live lab that way. If you can start a Cloud9 instance, or if you have an EC2, that's also fine. Hi, Sai, thank you. You have an EC2 or you want to do a Cloud9? EC2. Okay, fine. Yeah. So is it a Windows or a Linux?
Windows.
Okay. Okay, fine. Yeah, so you can create a, I mean, you can log in into that EC2, create a folder. So others, you can just follow what Sai is doing, right? And that way, and I'll keep giving the code and the instructions as we move on. So what we are going to do now is we are going to create a simple e-commerce application, and we'll keep this application. I mean, try to stop this instance and keep it with you so that we can reuse it in the future sessions if we meet again. Okay. So what we are going to do is we'll have a DynamoDB created, which will have one single table. And we'll create a Python Flask application. It will just fetch details from this DB. So we are not going to do much fancy with the application, but we are going to play around with the security settings of this EC2 instance. And we are going to see how it is affecting the application. Okay. Okay, so log into it and then create a folder. You can create a folder and name it as e-commerce app. Others, please follow this and try to replicate it. Any showstopper, let me know when you do. Yeah, sir.
What am I supposed to do?
Yeah, just log into this EC2 SI and create a folder. Whichever way you log in, you can log in. It is still initializing, so you have to wait. It's a micro, right? It will take few seconds. Anyone else wants to share? Please go ahead. We can have multiple.
Can I share all my
Sorry?
window tab? How can I share all my window? I'm only able to share this.
You have to share your screen.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. When you say present share, select screen.
Only the selector screen will be visible.
I mean,
If
your
I correct,
window, sorry, your entire window. Yeah, okay, you have logged in. Okay, now here create a folder. You can name it as e-commerce app. Okay, now here let's create 3 folders. Okay, so one is so just 2 folders is enough. One for backend, one for front end. So you can say mkdir front end inside e-commerce app. inside e-commerce app. You can put a tab, say tab, it will go. Yeah. mkdir front end and then mkdir backend. Done. Okay. Now get into. Let's start with backend. Get into backend. Okay. Now inside backend, create a folder called models. models models.
What's the command?
What happened?
What is the command to create the file?
Create a file. Okay. I think here it is vi. Create 1 minute. You have to create a folder called models. Inside models, create a file, product.python, like product.py. It's a Python file. Okay, so I'm going to share the code for product.py. Okay. Can you see in the chat window? You can copy it from there. Now you need to install these libraries. Do you have you used this? Okay, it's in your new machine. You will not have these libraries. Anyway, we'll do that.
I don't have that.
Yeah, it's okay. We'll install that. Anyone else in this group who, if you are doing this lab, please share your screen as well. I think
This
it
much of code,
it, right?
only
Isn't it?
I'm able to copy.
Yeah, I understand. Okay. Yeah, you can copy it until the get all products copy it. From import until get all, you copy it. No, until get all products. Down, until return response items. Yes, till then. Anyone has a Anaconda navigator or an environment for Python? That would be easy.
Visual Studios.
Anyone has Visual Studio Code? You have?
I'm having. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. From there, you can upload it to this EC2, right? Because we need to compile and run the code and host it in an EC2. That's all we need to do. Have you installed all the packages in your local machine? Okay, so forget it. Let's it's okay. Let me show you from my system itself. I thought I'll do a live lab. No worries. Let me show you from my system itself. Okay, I'll share my screen. Let me. My screen is visible, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So I have a application, just two folders, okay, front end and back end. So what it does is, let me share my screen because console also again I have to, let me share my whole window. Give me a second. Okay. I hope my console is also visible. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So I have a DynamoDB table created. Okay. So here I have a table which has products. And there are a few rows in this table. I hope all of you are aware of DynamoDB, NoSQL DB. So I just have added a few rows here, and the Flask, the Python application that I've created, it just scans this table and displays it. Okay. Now, this is the source code of that application. So here under backend, I have a folder called models in which I'm storing the code. I'll put this code in GitHub and share you the link, but let me just walk you through the code. So it's a simple code. I have used Boto3 Python SDK. So I'm instantiating that DynamoDB, and then I'm creating an instance of the products table. And here I have two methods: get all product and add product. Add product, right now we are not going to use. We are just going to use this get all products. Just two lines here. Okay, so all right, via a Flask, a Python Flask. So I have another file called products under roots folder. I have another file called products. I don't know why it's coming up as empty. Let me refresh. So in this products file, what it will do is it will just fetch the API, which is the get all products API. It will fetch and it will display it. Okay, so yeah, so this is where we are defining the method. So we are writing the APIs here. So this is the API layer, and we have a get method, all right, for model slash product file, which I showed you earlier, and importing that into this Flask file, and I'm calling the get all products method there, and that's how I'm creating this API. So the moment you say slash get underscore product, you will be getting the JSON, okay, from which is nothing but the table value. Now there is so that's the backend folder. Now the last file that you need to create is the application file. So this is just a Flask application, and the typical code that goes here. So here we have this API slash products. So you say it's API slash products, and it will hit this products.python, and it will hit one of these methods. Okay, and I'm making it accessible through via the port number 5000. So that's about the backend, and then comes the front end. So in the front end, I have a JavaScript. So I'm using JavaScript. So I have a JavaScript file. So this is the main file, which is nothing but the app.js. So this app.js will be calling this API. Okay, so that's the main purpose of this file. So fetch, it will call this API. Whatever response you get from this API, it is returned, and it is displayed in a tabular format. Okay, so I'm displaying it in a table, in a HTML table. So I've written the code for it. Okay, so then this is fine. This is not needed. You can go straight to the index HTML. So this index HTML is the landing HTML page, wherein the JSON, the table that we created, it will be displayed over here. And then you have the regular packages JSON and the README file. So here, one thing you have to note is, since this is a Flask application, you need to have these libraries, Boto3 and Flask, okay, in the requirements file. Any doubts or any clarification? You are clear with the code? You want me to explain it once again? I can do that. You're clear? So this is a Cloud9 instance. All right, and I'll stop it. Okay, so I've stopped both. Okay, so the application is not running right now. I have stopped both the backend, which is a Flask, and also the front end. So this is Node.js. So I'm using npm. So once I start the npm server, only then the application will come up. So this is how the application will look. Now it will not. Since it is not up, you will get an error here. Okay. Now to understand, any doubts so far before I proceed?
No, ma'am.
You're clear? Okay. Okay. So now the way it works is here front end is there. So once I start the server, it will start becoming accessible. Okay. Now this is a Cloud9, right? So the Cloud9 is behind the scene. It is EC2 which is running. Right? So here is the EC2, and in this EC2 you have this instance running. Okay. Now where anyone can access it. So it is open to the internet. Any idea what is a subnet? Anyone? How does a subnet become a public subnet? What is it? What there is one thing which makes a subnet public subnet. I just want to hear the terminology if anyone of you knows. Anyone?
I'm not sure, but public subnets gets assigned some private IPs, and those private IPs gets mapped to some public IPs. Is that right?
No. Okay. So there is something called Internet Gateway. Have heard of it?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Internet Gateway is the one which connects or which helps you to reach out to the internet. So under network and security, you will be able to see something called Internet Gateway. You can see it here. So this EC2 is in a public subnet. Okay, so that's why you can access it from internet, and it has a public IPv4 address. So if you go into the subnet, you will be able to see the route table. So I hope you know what is VPC, right? So VPC is the logical grouping of IP addresses. So you have a network within a network. So this AWS account is a large network, and you can create a closed group of IP addresses, and within that you can create smaller groups. So they're logical groups. So based on the IP address, you can choose the say from 123 IP address to 456. I want this subnet. So let's see that. Okay. So this is the subnet in which the EC2 instance is sitting, and if you look at the route table, so route table is the one which decides how traffic has to flow. Okay, so all the local all the local what do I say? The internal resources, right? So that is what you see represented in the first row. So the destination is the internal address. Now, if the destination, so if someone wants to reach out to 0.0.0/0 is internet. So if somebody wants, if the destination of a network traffic is internet, then it has to go via the IGW, which is nothing but the internet gateway. So anytime you want a subnet to become a public subnet, you have to edit the route table. So this is where you edit the table, and then you will configure it in such a way that it goes to the internet gateway. So let's see this internet gateway. So this is the configuration of the internet gateway. So again, an internet gateway is associated with a particular VPC. So your subnet, your EC2, everything should be in this VPC, of course. Okay. Now you can also create multiple internet gateways and use it for your subnets. Okay. So that is what makes a EC2, a subnet a public subnet. If you don't have internet gateway, if you are accessing it from outside this network, it will not work. All right, so that's one thing. Now, uh, every EC2, right, it will have a role attached to it. So that's the ideal way. So if you go into security tab, you will see an instance profile, right? So this is the instance profile, and this is the security group. Okay. Now the security group is what decides who can access this EC2 and who cannot access this EC2. So let's do some small experiments here. So this is called the inbound rule and the outbound rule. All of you are aware of what a security group, what an ACL is. Can one of you come forward? What is a security group and what's the difference between a security group and an ACL? This is a very standard question which we ask for freshers. Yeah, anyone?
So,
Can you repeat
why are
question?
this?
Hmm? Yeah, so what's the difference between a security group and a NACL, NACL?
So security groups allows you to specify some rules like ports
Mhm.
in order to allow the traffic and outbound traffic.
Okay.
And in that, the kind of a firewall for controlling the traffic, like in and out of one or more subnets.
Subnets, yeah, that's perfect. It is for subnets. Okay, so security group, right? As you can see here, it is for a specific resource. You can have security group attached to a Lambda function, to a DB, to EC2. So it is at the resource level,
Hmm.
right? And you have to create an inbound rule and then an outbound rule. So you have to configure what can go inside and what should come out, like who can access it and what it can access. So inbound is who can access it, and outbound is what this can access, what are the resources this EC2 can access. So security group in a nutshell is at the resource level. Okay. Now NACL is for network. It's called network access control list. So both of them is for network traffic only, but the level at which they operate is different. So NACL is for subnet, right? It's at the networking layer. It's at the subnet layer. Whereas EC2, it is for the resources level. So what we usually say, like when we compare a security group with NACL, is a security group is stateful. It means that if you are allowing an inbound request, if you are allowing an inbound rule, the outbound also will be automatically allowed. So for example, let's see that in action. Okay, now this is our EC2, right? Yeah, so this is our EC2. It is in public subnet only, and this is the IP address. So what does it mean is when I want to access this EC2 from outside, I need to use this IP address. This is the unique identifier of this EC2. Okay. Now I'm going to ping this machine from my laptop. All right. Sorry, everything is busy today. Okay. Okay. You can see my command prompt. Are you able to see my command prompt? Okay. Okay. So I'm going to ping this machine and I'm going to see how it's behaving. It is in a public subnet. Okay. So I'm assuming that it should work. 237.3.107. Okay. Now it is pinging and it says request timed out. So what does it mean is, even though it is in a public subnet, I'm not able to access it. Why? Because even though you have it in a public subnet, you have to say which port number is accessible and who can access it. So which means I have to go to the security tab, go to the security group. So the security group is only open here. And I have to configure an inbound rule for this EC2. So ping is something which you gave from a command prompt. It is an ICMP. It follows an ICMP protocol. Okay. So you can say custom ICMP, and you can specify that my IP, which means only this IP, my laptop will be able to give a ping request. Okay. So when I'm saving this inbound rule, I don't have to specify the outbound rule, which means I'm pinging the EC2, right? So from my laptop, traffic will reach the EC2. Now I also need to get a reply, correct? Which is nothing but the outbound rule. But I don't have to again go here and say the same thing which I did for inbound. You got it? Because this security group will remember, it will remember things. So we call it as stateful, which means whatever you set in inbound, you don't have to set it in outbound. It will remember and it will allow the outbound. So if I'm sending traffic from my laptop to this EC2 machine, which is using the security group, I will also get a reply. Okay. So as you can see, I immediately get a reply. So return traffic, for the return traffic, I don't have to create an outbound rule because it remembers. So it is called a stateful. Security groups are stateful because they remember the inbound and the outbound traffic. Whereas NACL, Network Access Control List, you have to go and you have to configure the outbound also. So when we do the networking labs, we'll see in detail. It's different. It doesn't remember. It is stateless. So whatever, even though you specified in inbound, you have to specify in outbound. But that is at the networking layer. So that's the difference. Okay. So now you can see that after I configured the ICMP, which is for ping, I was able to access it. You are clear on this? It's a very basic security concept. Now, let me come here. Okay, now let me bring up my application. So right now, this application is throwing error, right? Because obviously it's not running. So this is a Node.js. So let me do npm start. I should be having it here. So I'll bring up my front end. So the index, I'll be able to access it. And then let me also, I have a Flask application, right? So I have to bring up the Flask file as well, which is the app.py. So it's the backend. So I have to run the app.py file also. So once both are running, then my service is running and my front end is also running. Okay. And we all know that this 3.23, this is what we but it is not coming up. What should I do? Any idea? What should I do? Where? Anyone?
Ma'am, should we allow HTTPS protocol?
This is HTTP only. This is not secured actually. Even though we are doing a security session, this is not secured. This is HTTP.
No,
So
ma'am.
we
In
should
the inbound
allow
route,
HTTP. Yes, we should allow inbound HTTP. Okay. So I am going to say HTTP, and I need 8080. Okay. So what I can do is I can simply say custom TCP. Okay. And then I can give whatever port I want. Okay. Then here, the service, the Flask application, that is running in 5000 port number. So I should enable that also. So now I should be able to access this. All right. So these are few security configurations which you can troubleshoot. There is a lot more which I wanted to do, but we are actually running out of time. One more aspect which you can also check is on the DB side. So if you look at the DynamoDB, now the DynamoDB also, you can also control the access for these tables. Similar to security group, you can control how the permissions has to be configured. And more important is the role, right? So this entire application is running in an EC2 instance. Now that EC2 instance has a role attached to it, right? So it has an instance profile ARN, and it has there is a role with which this entire code is running. Now that role should have permission to the DynamoDB. So where do you configure? Where do you think you will be configuring the permissions of a particular role? Where should I configure? Should I configure here in the EC2 or should I configure here IAM role? Should I configure here? Any idea where I can configure? This code is running, right? This code is running using this EC2 role. So where do you think what that role can do, cannot do, will be configured? It's an IAM rule. It's an IAM role. It will be configured in IAM, right? So if you go here in these roles, each role has each role has their definition, right? So if you, let's pick up any role, let's pick up this role itself. Why is it not coming up? Okay, so if you pick up this role, the JSON of every IAM role will decide what it can do and it cannot do. So this is a policy which is directly attached. So for instance, let me create a role and show you. So I want to create a role which I will attach to this code or this EC2, which will have access to DynamoDB, right? So I can choose the service here. So there is a managed policy. You can leave that. So create inline policy, and here is the JSON. So now if I have attached this DynamoDB, so it will have access to this DynamoDB. Now, in addition, if I want to say customize or add, so I also want access to S3. Okay, so here I choose S3, and I can decide what kind of permissions this role should have. So I select the permission and I say next. Okay, so resources, right? So which particular resource, if you want, you can put all. So it has DynamoDB and also S3. So this is a custom policy which I'm creating, right? So this is a policy which I created now and I defined it. So whichever role it has this policy, it will have the list bucket permissions for the S3, and it already, since I mentioned DynamoDB, this policy got automatically added. Now here, assume I have an EC2 instance or a code running. This EC2 instance or this code can assume this IAM role, and it will be able to access the DynamoDB. You are able to get. Are you getting me? So what I can do here is I can also alter the instance. Okay, so here I can modify the IAM role. All right, and then this is one of the custom role I created. I can put this demo policy, any role, right? But it will not, SSM should also be attached, but I'll just show you the art of possibility. Let me see if it's able to recognize this role. Custom. What was the role I created? Yeah, demo policy. Okay, I think it should not come here because I also need to attach SSM because this is an instance role, right? So I think I also need to attach SSM, attach policy. Let's try that. EC2 role for SSM. So I have added EC2 role for SSM, the custom policy that I created. So 2 AWS policies and 1 custom policy. Okay. Now let's see here. It should come. Which ideally come here. Not sure why it is not coming. I'll find that out. Not sure why it is not coming. But this is how you change the role which is attached to an EC2. So anytime you have a code or you have a Cloud9 instance or you have an EC2 instance which is not doing the needful, one main reason why it's not able to is the IAM role that it is attached to. Right? Cloud9 SSM. Okay, that is the Cloud9. Let me try adding this. Should work. Okay, not sure why. Ideally, this should come here because I have attached this Cloud9 instance, but let me find that out. But you understand, right, how you change the IAM role attached to an EC2. Okay, anything else you want to quickly discuss? Well, that's all I had for today. But we have a lot more to go. If you are interested, we can have further sessions. And I'll make sure that I upload my code to Git before coming to a session, so that it's easy for you also to practice. Anything else you wanted to discuss? Any questions, any clarifications before we close? So that's all I had for today.
Guys, if you have any questions, then please proceed or we shall wind up the session for today.
Any closing comments? Was it okay? Was it helpful? Was it not? Anything you can tell me. Any feedback, please be candid and you can share your feedback. Anything you felt could be modified or you don't want it this way, something different, let me know. We can always work upon it.
It was very useful for us, ma'am, because we were able to look into the services which we hadn't used in a while or which we hadn't had any knowledge about it. So it was very useful to look into those kind of services. Overall, it was really great and insightful.
Thank you. Diana, what I would request you to is you can let me know what service you want to focus. Okay, so you can talk to your friends and mates, and then you guys can decide maybe one or two service which you want a deep dive, right? And you can let me know upfront, and then we can create demos for that service, and we can have a detailed discussion.
Sure, ma'am. I'll let you know. I'll ask my friends and I'll let you know.
Sure, because AWS is quite vast, right? If you want to continue on security, we can do that as well, right? So, in case you want to do a follow-up session, I can proceed, and maybe I'll pick up some other service and we can discuss on those.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, then it was great talking to you. You can connect with me in LinkedIn as well. You can drop in a message. Any questions you have in cloud security, let me know.
Thank you, ma'am. It was such an insightful session. But I have one question.
Yeah,
So, apart from AWS native security services, do
sorry,
you,
I didn't get you. What is
uh,
AWS?
like apart from AWS native security services, like you use GuardIoT and Security Hub, right?
Yeah.
Uh, do you also utilize the other services like other security
We
services?
have to. We have to, because when we go to production, the AWS native services, not just AWS, the cloud native services will not be sufficient. Okay, so for example, there are tools like you have heard of SIEM.
Yeah,
Um,
it's like Splunk and Azure.
yeah, Splunk is a very common tool which we use for logging, for log management. Then you have Datadog for monitoring. Though it's not a hardcore security tool, but it's a common tool which we see. Then there are tools on the networking side, like a Zscaler tool, right? Then to ensure that there is no data leakage, data loss prevention, DLP tools are used, like Symantec and many other players are there. Then apart from that, identity tools like Okta, SailPoint, those kind of tools are used for identity. So I can give you a big list. Then vulnerability management tools are out there. Then firewalls. Not every organization is happy with just AWS WAF alone. So they might use a Barracuda firewall, a ForcePoint, Palo Alto. Palo Alto has a set of security tools. So yes, it's a combination. It's always a combination of cloud and the third-party tools.
But they also cost a lot, right?
Yeah, it will come with a cost. Yes, if you
Yeah.
want a benefit, yes, it will come with a cost.
Yeah.
So see, it's this or. Okay, so if you decide that you want to use a Palo Alto, you don't use WAF.
Oh, okay. So yeah, that's it.
Okay, Krishna, great. Yeah, thank you, Diana, and thank you, everyone. Good evening.
Yes, ma'am. I would like request everyone to turn on the cameras, please, for a group picture. Yeah, before everyone turns on the camera, I would like to go ahead with the vote of thanks. So, as we conclude this enlightening session on cloud security, I want to extend our heartfelt gratitude to Ms. Raji Krishnamurthy for sharing her profound expertise with us today. Your comprehensive knowledge and practical insights have given us a strong foundation in cloud security. A special thanks also goes to our organizing team at the Placement Empowerment Program and the Cloud Computing and DevOps Center for making this event a success. Your dedication and hard work are truly appreciated. Finally, we would like to thank all the participants for your enthusiastic engagement. We hope you found this session both valuable and inspiring, and we look forward to seeing you at our future masterclasses. Thank you and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Yeah, I hope most of them have turned on their videos.
Are we done?
Yeah, are the pics taken? Kamlesh?
Yeah, we took the pic.
Yeah, and one with the C, the usual one.
Oh, what's that? You need
C
to.
for cloud.
Oh, okay. So what should I do? Should I do this?
Yeah, just a C.
Okay.
I hope it's done.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for the session, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for joining the session, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.